Are you convinced that a conclusion is either true or not true?
Mm, it depends.
What does it depend on?
Um, I don't think I did interviews since probably when we did stuff in the military for training.
How long ago was that?
Oh, 25 years ago. And then I became a trainer.
All right. What was your name again?
Mervel.
Mergel?
Mervel. Mervel.
Marvel?
Mervel.
Mervel. Sorry about that. Cool. All right. My name's David.
David.
And I'll just kind of explain what we're doing.
Okay.
We're having interviews with people in different communities
Yeah.
about something that is important to you, something that you think is true,
Okay.
something that you think is true about the world that we share.
Okay.
And I'll be asking questions not so much about what the conclusion is,
Yeah.
but how you arrived at the conclusion and what supports your confidence that it's true.
Okay.
And I was wondering if you wouldn't mind maybe helping me out with a new experiment that I've been doing,
Okay.
in which I won't know what the conclusion is.
Okay.
So you'll have to keep that hidden from me.
Okay.
All right? So that'll be your job. You try to keep it hidden from me and just answer the questions that I ask.
Okay.
And we'll see how it goes, okay?
Sounds good.
Sound good? Okay. So, all right. Think of something, or think of someone that you really respect. Someone that you value their opinion. And you can share who that person is, and you don't have to. But let's just think of someone in your mind. It could be a teacher. It could be like an officer, maybe that you had. You said you were in the military, right?
Yeah.
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 Maybe an officer that you had, um, or like an author or something like that you respect their opinion. Okay.
Okay.
So just think about that for a second. Um, and so I'll have you think of a conclusion that you think is true about the world that we share, something that is meaningful. If you found out it was not true, it would affect your behavior. So I'll give you a second to kind of think about
Okay.
something.
Yeah.
And if you wouldn't mind putting it in a positive form, and I'll give you an example to kind of demonstrate this. Instead of saying that the grass is not red, you would say the grass is green. So something that you think is true,
Okay.
not something that you think is not true. Does that make
Okay.
sense?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So I'll just have you kind of think of something that you want to think about uh, that I can ask questions about. Do you have something?
Yeah. The person that comes to mind is I'm applying for a position
Okay.
uh, with with his tribe,
Okay.
native tribe, and he's a retired Special Forces Lieutenant Colonel,
Okay.
active duty. Was was a two-star general in the Maryland Guard. Offered me his company 11 years ago.
Okay.
but my kids were small, so I wanted them to grow and develop outside Washington D.C.
Okay.
Like in more rural area, or how I grew up.
Okay.
So they had more space to uh, just to reflect and to grow and to develop as individuals and family and part of the community.
Okay. So the person that you have respect for is this lieutenant colonel?
He's a two-star general.
Oh, two-star general.
Yeah.
Okay. 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 All right. So this will come in later.
Okay.
All right. So that conclusion that I want you to think about, just keep it in your mind and try not to reveal it for now. You can reveal it later if you want to, but it's
Okay.
okay. So, um, are you able to give me the primary reason that supports the confidence that you have that it's true without revealing what the claim is, what the conclusion is?
Yeah.
Okay. So what's the main reason that supports your confidence that it's true?
When I started the master's program, I went into global media, and so there was like all the movies and the different things that were coming out. The internet was kind of just getting going, and that was the big thing back in those days. And so when I started to look at global media, I thought, well, there's probably two sides to this, because I'd already been in the military,
Hmm.
so I knew not everything's reported here.
Not everything's what now?
Is reported
Oh, okay.
what goes
Not
on in the
everything's
world.
reported. We don't know everything that's going on in the media.
In the world
Okay.
by the media. The media is going to present what they want,
Okay.
or what's going to sell, I suppose, and who the executive uh, people that have run it and the political environment, I suppose. And then there's different things like liabilities, I suppose, and influencing uh, people through the media. So there's certain things that you didn't want your kids to see back when I was growing up. It was PG rated, R rated,
Uh-huh.
but now it's like with the media, there's like everything's just out there.
Mhm.
It's hard to get a handle on it.
Okay. So the conclusion that you think is true, we'll call that X for now, okay?
Okay.
That's the conclusion. And the main reason that supports your confidence that X is true is because of the media?
No,
Okay. The main reason for believing that X is true, what would that be?
but physically going out and seeing for yourself that environment.
Okay,
By being
observation.
by being in the military, we got to go to see these countries and what goes on.
Okay, so your personal observation of what's actually happening, that's what's supporting your confidence that X is true.
Yeah.
Okay.
So what I do is I'll randomly go, just like I'm going today, and I'll go different places, and I'll go see for myself, and just get a vibe, talk to people, and visit and see what they think about wherever we're at, whatever they want to talk about.
Okay.
It gets me out of my thinking. It gets me out of that I'm not right all the time. Somebody else has a different opinion,
Mhm.
and so it gets me to think outside of myself. That hey, there's more of this to this life than just what's going on in my head.
Gotcha. So there's this like boots on the ground type of personal observation that allows you to be exposed to other people's ideas and perspectives.
Yeah, going out to visit people. Um, I'm going out to visit friends that I met
Mhm.
through the VA Medical Center.
Like interacting with other
Seeing how
people.
they're doing and seeing, where let them know where I'm at and
Okay,
what's going
cool.
on with me. And
Gotcha. Okay, so personal observation. Um, on a scale from 0 to 100, how confident are you that X is true?
100%.
100. Okay.
That's the only way it would be if I go check it myself.
If you go and check something yourself, that's a good reason to be 100% about something?
I think so. And randomly, not just to where it's all set up. So you just pick a random time and go make an observation.
Okay. So random personal observation. That that is what's supporting your 100% confidence that X is true.
Yep. There's there's a limit. Theoretically, the limit of a function x
Hmm.
is never going to be 100%, 99.999%. Da 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 da. So, but in reality, it's actually doable to go make an observation
Hmm.
and just on a random time, and you just happen to be there. And
Okay. So the reason why it should be random is so that it's not like um it's like you said, it was not set up to be a certain way, and then your personal observation would be false because of how it's set up.
yeah, and then I have my bias too,
Uh-huh.
so I have to be random about where I go.
Okay.
So I'll just get up in the morning, pick a direction, and start going.
Okay. Okay.
That's
Um,
how I live, really. It's like,
gotcha. So you're at 100%. Does that mean that you cannot be wrong,
no, I could be wrong.
even at 100%? Okay, gotcha.
I might hear something, or what I think I hear, but what I'm told, the people I work with, for example, they might tell me something. He's got an appointment on this date. And so I show up on this date, and there's no appointment.
Mm-hmm.
Your appointment was last week. I'm like, well, I heard you say this week,
Yeah.
today. So that puts me where I've lost a whole week waiting
Right.
for that appointment.
Right.
And this is what we deal with. So I go I went to Washington, went to Baltimore, I went to Fort Myers, outside the VA, San Antonio, Texas, Audie Murphy, here, Fargo, until I find where I'm going to get help. I've been to Regents, Hennepin, Southdale. I wrapped them all up, and so I'm passing my medical records up.
Uh,
And
can I ask about that appointment?
sure,
So the appointment, you missed it. Was it because they were mistaken, or were you mistaken about when the appointment was?
they were
They
mistaken.
were mistaken. Okay.
They had
So,
it they had it in writing, but my mail's going back to
okay.
Bemidji, Minnesota,
Gotcha.
and I'm in Fargo, North Dakota.
So somebody could tell you something that isn't true. They could be mistaken, but you would have no way of knowing
I'll
if you're
take their
only going off of what they tell you. Is that what you're
I'll
saying?
take their word for it if they're in a position where they would know.
Hmm.
So I'm at a loss now. So it's we don't live in a perfect world.
Right.
So people make mistakes, and I might have heard it wrong too. So that because I got 50% hearing memory loss on this side.
Okay.
So if I hear something, I might not remember it.
Right.
If I
So,
set something down, I might not remember.
okay.
And so I'm learning about how, as I'm getting older now too, memory. I started studying memory
Mm-hmm.
instead of what I was doing. I was going to be an engineer, build robotic stuff, but I could see that all coming. But I couldn't get any money scholarships, so I had to go in the military to get money to go to school. And
Uh-huh.
so,
Have you ever been mistaken using random personal observation?
Yeah, yeah, I would say because I know if, for example, if I get a severe headache, um, I get in distress. I gotta keep moving around so I don't, uh, number one, fall over and pass out or something, or uh, it relieves the pain. And when I run and I sweat, it relieves the pressure.
Oh, okay.
So that's how I coped, how I've always coped since I was a kid.
Activity.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad that you know how to kind of cope with it. That's important, huh?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and just drink a lot of water.
Okay, so my question is, if if you can be mistaken using random personal observation, and you're using random personal observation in this case, and you're 100% confident, why are you 100% if you could be mistaken using this reason?
What I would, what I would just in what as you're going in that direction, the guy I'm going to see, he's doing a perception class, and we just discussed this last time we were back.
Yeah.
And the perception is, if I'm wrong to begin with, it's not going to be 100%. The perception of me in distress, knowing all my senses ain't working, they're not all, I'm not firing on all 8 cylinders,
Uh-huh.
that I could be wrong.
Okay. And
So,
you said earlier that you could you're 100%, but you still could be wrong about
mhm.
this.
Yeah,
You
I mean, I'm saying theoretically there's a limit, but in reality, it's doable. For example, I was we were doing defense contracts, and I put my little notes out for, I was an HR man, and I put on there, theoretically we're not going to be 100%,
uh-huh.
but in actuality we could be 100% or 0% defects 100%.
100% of the time,
Yep.
right? Yeah.
With 0% defects.
Uh-huh.
In reality, or in theoretically, we're never going to get to zero.
Uh-huh.
But in reality, it's doable if we all watch each other.
Okay. Um I'm interested in this because it you're
It's
using you're using a method that could be used to be mistaken, yet you're 100% confident. Is it
it's doable. Theoretically, when you start putting science in there, and they say science is supposed to be proven wrong, that's the only thing you can study is if you could prove it wrong.
right?
So
Could you do you have ways to tell if this was not true?
yeah,
X?
oh yeah. I mean, there's all what how we look at things is, say for example in a contract, you've got all these things that you come down in a flow chart, and if it's yes, and then you go with it. If it's no, you go keep coming down the flow chart.
Uh-huh.
And
Until
so,
you hit something that
well, until you've covered all your yeses.
okay.
For example, is the market demand right? Is your money going to turn over quick? Is your profit going to come back quick? They call it there's two things I'm thinking of. One of them is the correlation uh, co-effective principle, and it's when you take all that you're going to put into something, your contract, for example, and you start looking at the end point. What are you going to get? What's your return on investment?
Uh-huh.
And that's kind of how I see this. Uh, this kid, I was taking an economics class, and he was a PhD student, and he could look at you, and he could tell in a whole classroom if you were catching it or not.
Mm.
And he said, he looked at us, he sat there and went, okay. He went to the board, he did this big diamond, and he split it in half, and he said, this is the efficiency, equilibrium.
Okay.
If you're too efficient, the government steps in and they make it equal. So they'll take from his example was Bill Gates. He's too far out, so we had to regulate him
Mm.
so that so there'd be more people that could share in the market. Otherwise, he'd just keep going. He'd be unregulated. So they regulated him, and they gave it to other. Uh, they made it more competitive, I think.
Gotcha.
And then there was Google and Microsoft there.
Otherwise, it would have just gone out of control.
I don't know. That's he would have been unregulated though.
Unregulated,
and
yeah.
he would have been rather than to share the wealth, I suppose. On one flip side of the coin, or are we just killing like we did with the steel industry here? And we were so far out with the steel that we regulated all these other countries that are lobbying in DC.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the whole DC is all embassies,
Right.
And
Yeah.
they're paying for a vote,
Right.
So that's what we're up against. So
Uh-huh.
here we got this, trying to level the playing field. Well, we killed our own steel
Yeah.
because we're buying steel from other countries.
Right. Yeah.
But that's just an example too.
Gotcha. Okay, so back to X. You're 100% confident that X is true. You're using random personal observation to support your 100% confidence, and people could be mistaken using random personal observation. Is that all correct?
I could be mistaken, but usually if I know somebody's mistaken to begin with, I'll just go past them.
Okay, got it.
I mean, I won't even hear an argument.
Yeah.
I'll just keep going. And
yeah. No, this is about your
there's this book,
confidence though.
There's this book called Zebras Don't Get Ulcers.
Zebras don't get ulcers?
They teach it up here at the University of Minnesota. Yeah. And so what the thinking is, though,
That's a great title.
they don't worry. They just outrun the lion.
Okay.
And they do two things. One, they go into the herd, and they can't.
They kind of blend in or whatever.
And they only got to be faster than the slowest one.
Yeah.
The other ways you could just flat out run them.
Yeah.
And if you can outrun the lion, and you're still good to go, but
Yeah.
you're not worrying.
Yeah.
So at the end of it,
Just do what you need to do.
every day.
Yeah.
And so I don't really look at people's flaws as I just go past it
Uh-huh.
because it's out of my control.
Got it.
Those things that are out of my control, I don't worry about. I just keep outrunning the lion.
Okay.
And that's what heals our bodies without medicine, really.
Mm-hmm. The low stress.
Yeah, it's a form of self hypnosis where you just keep letting your body heal. You relive the trauma that you've had, whatever it is, the things that are bothering you, and you just keep letting it go.
Got it.
You release the trauma.
Okay.
While you keep outrunning the lion.
Got it. Okay. What does 100% confident mean to you?
Used to rodeo.
Sorry?
I used to rodeo
Okay.
professionally, and so my confidence has to be, for example, the Chrysler airbag comes out in point. It used to come out. I mean, back when we were in high school, it was 0.018 seconds or something like that.
Oh, okay.
And so our ability to respond, stimulus response, in our stimulus response studies, we did 300 milliseconds and 500 milliseconds, and then you answered the Nelson Denny online versus hard copy, and we found online was the less skilled readers, and they didn't like that term, but they didn't want to put more skilled readers in there either. So we just put less skilled readers do better online. So and I think it might have something to do with we're not using so much working memory, working our eyes.
Hmm.
We're able to focus on one area as individual differences, for example, on one side. On the other side, it didn't matter. Implicit or explicit questioning, they either knew it or they didn't, and they responded.
Oh.
And they responded about the same, 300, 500. They either knew it or they didn't. So they were just, and so I talked to other people when we go to our conferences and stuff. And I was like, how'd you chop out the low end? How could you tell if somebody was just sitting there clicking C, 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 and true and false, true, false,
Yeah.
false, 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 and then you get 66% and above.
Right.
How
Yeah.
do you check for that?
Just by like the randomness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so they're like, they didn't have an answer. They never thought of it. It's like, well, we just scored everybody. It's like, so even if they hit the same button and just answered, there's no way to throw that all out. Because that's what's the term they use?
Margin, like.
No, it's more like when your study is confounded. That's confounded. When
Okay.
You're just sitting there.
Right. It's kind of skew. It kind of skews it, right?
Throws off everything.
Right. Okay.
So that's why when you come in there, you have to be able to control. So in all reality, then, when you're tightening up that your predictability,
Mm-hmm.
you have to throw out the top end too.
Right. Yeah.
You throw out the bottom end.
Yeah.
And then you're going to be more 100% correct.
Right. Gotcha. Because of the anomalies.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
You're chopping off each side of it.
Is there a way to test to see if X is true?
I would say
There is a test?
validity. You just repeat the study.
Okay.
I mean, you just go there again. Say,
So-
like, you observe, and say you come back here tomorrow, and you do it at the same time. See if somebody else comes walking through and is able to.
Okay.
So especially this time of the day, like where everybody's kind of winding off, but it's a Saturday too. But this is like, I took all morning preparing for hopefully a fall marathon, but I'm happy with a half. And I just happened to come back over here because I seen the signs out.
Yeah.
Closed from 7 a.m. till noon.
Tomorrow, right?
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I'm wondering, are they gonna have a race here?
Oh,
I'm gonna show up
okay.
and I'll be ready to go. But
Okay.
that's why I came back. I mean, I was just doing my loops, went and
Uh-huh.
checked on my friend, and I was heading that way to go see my other buddy here.
Cool. So there is a way to test to see if X is true, and you said that there's ways to tell if it's not true. You said, right? You're 100% confident.
And to tighten it up,
Right.
because you got
To throw out the anomalies.
you got the super geniuses out there who are gonna hit 100% every. I mean, they're just wired that way. So you gotta, in all reality, take them out of the picture too. If you're
Got
gonna
it.
take the bottom end,
Got
and then your predictability is gonna be a lot
Right.
stronger.
Got it. You're able to make better predictions if you throw out the anomalies.
Mhm.
Okay. Is there anything that could cause you to raise your confidence, even though you're at 100?
You know what? I look at horse racing, and as they start showing their highlights of before their last 3 races before Kentucky. I could pick probably 3 out of the 4 that are going to be in the top 4. I could pick 3 of them.
Really?
But every time, just by seeing how they're coming and when they're going to peak. And then there's always the ones in there that they just have a great day.
Okay.
That one come to mind was the one year the guy started in last place here last year, I believe. And I talked about this with one of my groups up here. We were in a meeting, and I said, the day comes where you have to be ready to come from last to first.
Wow.
This guy's, they moved out a little bit on him, and he jumps out, he's got room. And the whole field splits, but the draft sucked him right to
Oh.
the rail. And as soon as he hit the rail, it was a straight run and he was right in the lead.
Oh, yeah.
Did you watch that?
Uh,
Oh, that was a good race.
yeah.
I mean, that's how life is though too. If you're ready, you know, you have to be ready up
Prepared.
here,
Yeah.
plus physically,
Yeah.
spiritually, you know, on every area. But that when that happens, you go right to the front. Oh, that's a good feeling.
Yeah.
Oh, I haven't felt that strong for years, but I'm getting there again, and I'm enjoying the summer.
Yeah. Yeah, it's nice
I
around here in the
ran, I
summer.
ran like 12 miles, about 3 days in a row,
Nice.
in the heat too.
12 and 12?
I ran into town. It's about 6,
Okay.
and I took little breaks, you know.
Okay,
And I
sure.
ran back home,
Yeah.
and I had to stop and eat a couple times because it was so hot out. So I'll do that too, and then, but I did it 3 times, and I'm like, I'm getting there. So
That's awesome.
today I really hurt. I hit a lull. I mean, I came through here and I was like, oh, I don't feel good.
Yeah.
But I went back up to the VA. They were coming back, so I got to visit there a little bit. And I'm like, oh, I'm gonna go for it. So I went out to the library,
Yeah.
shot my friend a note. Hey, I'm gonna stop in over if you're home. So I went over there. He's not home, so then I'm coming back here, and I'm like, okay. Do I ride the bus or should I start walking and trotting?
Uh,
Like, well, it's nice out.
yeah. You got a second win?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it just helps to have these little breaks,
Right.
little breathers, and then talk with people. And
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you sat down and talked with us.
It-
I have just a couple more questions, if that's
Okay.
okay. Um, the two-star general that you talked about earlier. Let's say that he had a conclusion that you knew was not true, that you were convinced was not true. You don't have to think about it. Let's just say he says something that you know is false, and you asked him how he knew that, and he said random personal observation. Would that be a good reason for him to think that other thing is true?
I was just telling my wife, I said, the thing I like about him is you just have to be honest.
Yeah.
That's the only thing he requires. Honest, honor, truth, trust.
Uh-huh.
And so, you know, and I start thinking about it like honor your father and your mother is a commandment. And he's really, this guy I'm going to see, he's really into the Old Testament.
Mhm.
And so we get into discussions like this. And
Yeah.
so for me, honor is there's also honesty.
Uh-huh.
So when you stand up in front of people, you got to be honest about yourself.
Okay. I may have not formed my question very well.
Okay.
Let's say that he honestly thinks that Y is true, and you know for a fact that Y is not true, but he's mistaken. Let's say he's mistaken.
Okay.
And he's 100% confident, and he's using random personal observation to support his confidence. Would this reason be a good reason for him to use to support his confidence?
Oh yeah, he could be right because his perception is different. See if you're seeing this and I'm seeing this,
Yeah.
we're seeing two different things.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
that's where perception comes in,
Gotcha. Let's say that.
and it's kind of like a rule of physics, you know, because that could throw off everything.
Right.
It depends on.
Okay. So let's imagine that for some reason we have this kind of special knowledge, and we know that Y is not true. We just know that Y is not true.
I could tell where you're going with this.
Okay.
I got the answer.
Where am I going?
Here's, say we look at the triangle, okay?
Mm-hmm.
So you know two sides, you can know the angles.
Right.
Because you can cut a triangle in half, and then you got 90-90.
Yeah.
I was just telling my little girl about this, and a circle is actually a bunch of straight lines. They're
Okay.
actually a bunch of triangles. So when you look in a circle, the only thing that's going to really pull in, centrifugal pulls you in, centripetal pulls you out like a petal. So in your line from A to Z going to Y, what he's seeing and you're coming from a different perception.
Uh-huh.
Wherever, wherever you're looking or whatever you're observing, and whatever you're primed to observe, because if you're not thinking together to begin with, you're going to be looking at different things.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Like you said, there's priming, there's bias, there's perception, all of that going on,
yeah.
right? So I don't think that's where I was going. I do appreciate that that perspective, so to speak. Where I'm going is, if two people are 100% confident about about opposite things, and they're
Okay.
both using random personal observation, is that, how do we find out who's right?
I told my wife, because she's always like she's her thinking is, let's agree to disagree.
Uh-huh.
And so I'm like, on negotiations, I said, that's, to me, I learned from Wally Kearns. He was an SBA director in North Dakota. He was in my unit in a guard. And so he'd always give me stuff to read, and then he'd question me. And then, what'd you think? And then so I'd tell him what I think, and then he would go back and forth, and we'd have a little discussion. But it just gets us thinking out of our own uh, stagnant thought process.
Uh-huh.
It makes us think outside of each other.
Right.
And I appreciate people like that. So here's Wally, and he's doing facilitating a business meeting. We've got people on both sides of the table, and they got two different plans for how they're gonna do business. And he comes up with this thing I never heard before. Let's take the best of both,
Mm-hmm.
and then we'll make it work that way.
Okay.
We'll go down the list, and so we start doing a focus group discussion. Everybody there, prioritize, and all the things that, like bias, those,
Right.
and put them all out there, and then have everybody vote on which one they think is the highest priority, and then maybe pick 4 or 5,
Uh-huh.
come down, and then you add them all up, and the highest priorities are going to be the ones you go with in your focus group. So
And that's when you're trying to figure out what's important, right?
yeah, and when you're looking at your X and Y, why you're coming up with differences,
Mm-hmm.
and how to get the best of both,
Okay.
and make your decision.
Are you convinced that a conclusion is either true or not true?
Mm, it depends.
What does it depend on?
Um, if it's valid, if you could control, or you can control the environment, but a lot of times we can't. So it's just going to be a random. I think of we did this study with it's called like a scatter plot, and we'll just pick random spots on the monitor, and so you start looking at the scatter plot, and it's different all the time because it's all random. But is it predictable in your observation, that you come up with a similar conclusion amongst, say, 123 college students, the undergraduate college students, because usually they do studies with undergrads, they get extra credit.
Uh-huh.
But we come up with this thing in our thinking that we could start predicting the scatter plot.
Mm-hmm.
And
Are you talking about the relationship truth has with being able to predict it?
No, like of all the variables out there, uh, and where you start to think on one side of the coin, the word anoka means the other side of there's another side of there's the other side of the where the river split. There's another side,
Uh-huh.
and that's what makes me think of. That's a Dakota word, the anoka.
Okay.
And there's two sides in Dakota. There's two meanings to almost every word.
Okay.
So
I think I
there's
understand what you're
so
saying.
what I'm saying is it depends because it depends on what side you're
Depends on the
hearing,
meaning
and
that you're using.
also you could be hearing another. Oh, oh I know what you're saying, and you might not. You might be thinking it's something else
Uh-huh,
because it's
right.
the opposite, or it's the other side of the coin, or
Yeah.
it's another meaning of the word. Or does that make sense?
I think
The
so.
language
Yeah,
part.
it depends on kind of the
My
way that you're using a
my,
word.
my son's studying Ojibwe, and I'm studying Dakota, and here there's so many dialects.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many different tribes that. So I never understood. Like, we never heard the words that are used here,
Hmm.
but it's in reference to how they speak here.
Right.
And so my dad I was like, how do you say this? He'd be like, you speak the language wherever you're
Right.
at.
When in Rome kind of thing.
Yep.
Yeah. Can X be true and not true at the same time?
Yep. I think so.
Your conclusion can be true and false?
Hmm. Because for me, it might be true, but there's another side. And that's the thinking part that, um, for example, let me think of, I used to think our Dakota language was the digits.
Digits?
Yeah, it goes up to 10,
Uh-huh.
and then it's okay, sound. And so I went to visit one of my friends here, and his guy he works with is there, and he's taken martial arts. And he was in Korea, so we could start talking about Korean language.
Okay.
And he says in Korea they use Sam, but it's all digits.
Okay.
So you just add on a 0, 1, 0.
Okay.
I mean, so it's easier to just have 10 digits and then just add your your zeros on.
Right.
But then that's the easier way to do math because
Yeah, like the metric system.
yep, you
Yeah.
just boom, 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 and then then we're learning English, and it's
Uh-huh.
like 13, 14, 20, 100, 1,000, and then so it's like the language goes. So it's going to depend on um, all those individual differences need to be accounted for somehow. I think.
Is there a truth beyond those perceptions, do you think?
Oh yeah,
There is.
I know there is
Okay.
because
So there's a truth out there beyond the perceptions. Um, so that's what I'm wondering. Like, if there's a truth beyond the perceptions, how can X be both true and not true at the same time?
I think of the scripture. The wise will be confounded. They're not going to understand.
Uh-huh.
So no matter how much you try to drive it and however you try to explain it,
Uh-huh.
they're just not going to catch
Gotcha.
it.
Well, it's interesting because if if something is true, and we're talking about the true beyond perception, the true beyond different points of view, if something is true, I wanna I want my beliefs to align up to it,
Yeah.
and if it's not, I don't.
Yeah.
And um, so
If it fits your schema or your how you were raised or your experience,
uh-huh,
and if it's something that's just out there, it's scary.
right,
It's like
yeah,
I'm coming from. We went to go pick up a RV, and we left it, so we were coming back. and I was tired, and we were coming through, and I seen a falling star coming towards the airbase, and it just triggered me like that. And as soon as we pulled off the vehicle, I was throwing up. I mean, it just from being in the military,
Mm.
from seeing,
Oh yeah.
seeing, hearing stuff,
Yeah.
and dealing with. I got 2 TBIs, this upper cervical. I have to exercise. I've got a lower lumbar, so I'm I'm in a. I have to be aware of that all the time. So when I seen that, I was like, oh, what did I? Where did it? That quick? Where did it bring me? And so
Hmm.
I thought that's just how I'm gonna be living, you know. So for me, what feels good though is if I run and I get full of sweat and all the cortisol comes out and my sweat's clear
Yeah.
again. Otherwise, it gets real gummy
Oh yeah.
from
That's how
stress.
you can tell
Stress.
what's going on. Yeah.
Stress. So, and a lot of these older guys with like PTSD and stuff, it's painful. I mean, it comes out and it'll burns your, it'll do that like that.
Mm.
It comes out so strong, the sweat, it'll burn and it'll bubble. I mean, you just like, well, just think too, even Christ in the garden, he was bleeding blood out of his skull. So that stress from knowing he was going to the cross
Mm.
was just coming out.
Mm.
Does it make
Okay.
sense?
I think so.
I mean,
Yeah, there's like chemical reactions that happen based on our stress level.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, when we get stressed out, it's like, oh,
Okay. So whenever you say that there's a truth beyond our perceptions and beyond our biases and stuff,
yeah.
are you saying that there's an objective truth? Is that how you would?
What I'm thinking of is where there's like understanding, knowledge,
Uh-huh.
and wisdom. First, you're going to understand. You're just not going to go to knowledge.
Mhm.
You have to understand where it comes back into your own schema of thinking or what your experiences are, or like what you were talking, what's familiar to you.
Uh-huh.
Then you're going to understand, and then you're going to have knowledge. You're going to understand a little more. It's going to be a deeper meaning for you, even though it might be the same book you read 10 years ago.
Yeah.
I mean, the 7 Habits of Successful People.
You have a different level of understanding.
Yeah, well, and I read that again. I'm like, and then deeper this time because I'm older and I got more experience that
Right.
sticks with it. And so I enjoy reading like books I've read before.
Uh-huh.
And because it takes me back to in my memory to what I believed back then, what I believe today,
Uh-huh.
because it's a different world.
Right. You have a different level of understanding.
Mm.
Okay, so I'm just gonna wrap up real fast because I don't want to take
Okay.
any more of your time. Okay, so just to summarize, you think X is true. You're 100% confident that X is true. You're using random personal observation to support your 100% confidence that X is true. X could be true and false at the same time,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yep.
And there is a truth beyond our perceptions.
Yes.
Cool.
There's a, I mean, I look at it like sometimes there's things that are right in front of us that we cannot see.
Mm-hmm.
I had a brother that froze right outside the house.
He did what?
He froze.
Froze.
Yeah, he froze right outside the house.
Oh.
Fell and I don't know, froze. And so I couldn't see him. My body, my mind covered my senses from seeing him. So, oh, where is he? My dad is standing there and he's like, he's right there. So I'm like, oh, there's something wrong with me. You know, I better go in and I must have. So I start working on myself then.
Yeah.
And I was out of the military at the time too. So when I first got out, I always had that umbrella,
Mhm.
being in the military. And when I got out, I didn't have it anymore. So now when I come back to the VA, I have that umbrella, and I start to remember things, and I could break them down. And it's things like I got a statement from my LT, and I go running along the river here, and when I read it, I was like, did that really happen?
Hmm.
I mean, that's so far back,
Right,
pushed
right.
down, and you call it the vestiges of our brain and like AA books.
Uh-huh.
It's like an onion. We got to peel back that onion. It's going to
Right.
make us cry, and we
Yeah.
get all the way down, and we could start to remember, and we could start to let ourselves heal.
Yeah. And that's
I,
kind of what you were talking about, like with the zebra.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, the zebras don't get
Gotcha.
horses.
Okay. Did
All
you
those
what?
methods.
Did you want to reveal what X is? The conclusion that you think is both true and not true at the same time?
Mm,
You don't have to.
no, I could. I mean,
It's up to you.
it's just the fact that we might be seeing the same thing, but we got different perceptions. For example, this wasn't physics class. I was so sick in this class. What was the example? Shooting an arrow, and here's the direction, here's the velocity, here's the. And I was thinking, well, there's gravity, but how can you get the variable of like the feather length, the kind of material used, the
Mhm.
weight of the arrowhead? You're just using the. In my mind, I'm breaking it down like in 1,000 pieces,
Uh-huh.
and he's just like shooting it out there. It seems like you're leaving some of these variables out.
Uh-huh.
So
There might be other variables that we don't take into account. Is that kind of what
yeah,
you're saying?
and so on the flip side of it, I'm over working in Elko, Nevada with Joe Winkmeyer, and he's my boss.
Hmm.
So we're doing this sewer cell relining project. And it was like 1 foot of bentonite reline the sewer cell. And so I just did the triangle things. I did mine like half a sheet. Here you go. He's like, I'm not going to show you mine. He had like 4 pages of multivariate physics and
Uh-huh.
all kinds of stuff. And
Yeah, I would just be lost with
he,
that.
he got like 2,000 more cubic feet, I think,
Wow.
of dirt, of bentonite.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
it's keeping things simple though is the easiest, I think.
Yeah. Cool. Well, I appreciate you
All
stopping and
right.
talking. Do you have any questions for me?
Um, no, I'd like to see what your
What I think about this?
yeah,
Um,
how when you finish interviewing everybody, how it comes out.
oh yeah. So, I have a QR code. You can see the YouTube channel
Okay.
where it'll go to. Is that kind of what you're asking? Like
Oh,
what
no,
happens to the interview?
like how you're recording the answers and nominally
Oh yeah, no. It's
or like.
just it's just fun to explore how people think
Oh, okay.
and hopefully creating a space where they can kind of understand themselves better.
Oh, okay. There's well, here's what I'm thinking anyway. When I was when I got out of the military, I had some memory. My memory. I got a TBI in Korea, and then I got assaulted by cops in Denver.
Oh no.
And my aunt lived a block away. Skinheads were shooting back in November of '97. So 4 months later, I'm assaulted with a short military haircut. Then they see my military
Oh
dog tags, and they're like, "Ooh,
yeah.
let's say he's banging his head on the ground when we found him."
Oh
And they
no.
had my records locked
Mm.
all these years. So I'm just now winning the battle.
Wow.
And so
That must have been horrible.
I just put it out, and I just kept going.
Yeah.
And but when I started getting out of the military, I was slowing down a lot. I was like, I just kept battling it. But until I came and started to really work on it and let it go, and my records, and it's starting to come out now. And people want me to write books. Like, there's this thing called confidentiality, though.
Yeah.
And so maybe it's I got to let that go, because these people probably got families and kids now and grandkids. So it's something that I just kind of like.
Just kind of letting it go.
Yep. Yeah. And I feel good about it. And this is probably the first public thing outside of my family and my people I work with that know about it. The people that I worked with in the military know about it. So,
is it okay if this goes public?
Sure.
Okay. Cool. It
I
was
got
good meeting you.
nothing to hide.
Mervel,
God
right?
bless. Yep.
David.
David.
That's Veronica and Matt.
Hi.
So yeah,
Oh, that was
that was fun.
yeah. It made me kind of think about.
It's really coming down.